Hey, welcome back to the Xpress lane. Now we're going to talk about the report of findings. And honestly, over the last, 6 months, I've been really trying to streamline my report of findings. You have an example of a video of me doing a report of findings, but I've really been trying to just chunk it down into 3 simple steps. And actually, my hubby always tells me this because I tend to be long-winded when it comes to the science, which you know how much I love the science behind neurofeedback because I think it's the most amazing thing in the world and I want the whole world to know about it. But a lot of people can't handle that. And people ask me questions about absolutely everything that doesn't have to do at all with their brain map, but it has to do with their lives and, brain performance and how it relates to it. I've been trying not to answer all of those questions. Actually, in my office, I've created a new service, which is brain health coaching. So if people have a lot of random questions that don't have to do with me reporting their findings, we offer them that service, and it's $149 for me to answer all those questions for them. So if people really want those questions answered that don't have to do with their brain map, we've created a service for that, and you can do that also. And we've had people take us up on it, but what that does is it allows me to stay committed to reporting on the findings of the brain map, telling people about our programs, and moving them through our process. So you know how I feel about having an answer for every question, so I needed to create that service. Okay, so what I do in the report of findings is I walk them through, and you have a video of this, using the 2 cheat sheets. I still do that. And I frame the map for them so that they understand how to interpret it. But now I'm trying to simply keep it to, I know what your issue is. And I answer that quickly instead of describing it in all the detail that I have done in the past, which takes a lot of time. And honestly, it blows people's doors off and creates overload. Honestly, I want to create a little door blowing and a little overload because I want them to know, I know what your issue is, and it's very complex and it's right here in your brain map. But I've been trying to keep it to one-liners of what the pattern means to them, opposed to breaking every single aspect down and explaining it. So for example, if it's an ADHD brain map, I will tell people about theta and I'll tell them, see this theta slow processing speed, it is performing 3 levels too much. That means your brain is using tons of braking, which creates ADHD symptoms. Boom, easy enough. And then of course there's discussion around that, but it's pretty simplified. You see this high beta pattern? This is creating a lot of anxiety. This is overdrive. Your brain's on overdrive. Usually people's heads start nodding. This is gassing. This is your foot is on the pedal to the metal 75 miles per hour. And if people have both, which most times people have both, I tell them that this excessive slowing in theta is like their foot is pedal to the metal on the brake, and we've got overdrive, pedal to the metal 75 miles per hour on the gas, and we've got gassing and braking, gassing and braking. And they're nodding their heads because they feel gassed out and braking all the time. If there's any sight of a depression brain pattern, that is their brain has shifted into neutral. They get that. They feel that. I show them that piece. We move on. Then in terms of the 3 parameters for communication, I have 3, your brain mapping system might be different. I don't go through them all anymore unless someone asks. And even then I keep it simplified. I say these 3 parameters have to do with the amount of communication between brain areas, the timing, and how it is balanced across the 2 sides of the brain. When we see these red areas, it means that those things are happening too much. When we see the blue areas, those things are happening too little. So remember, and actually I'm talking to myself right now, remember, you don't have to teach people how to interpret brain maps. That is not the goal. What is your goal? Your goal is to tell them, I know what your issue is. Boom. That is your only goal in the brain map interpretation. Secondly, you want to tell them, I know how to fix that. So after I do that, I say, do you have any questions about your brain map? Usually there's 1,000, but I've been trying to keep them scaled back. And if people start to get away from me, I say, in the essence of time, we're going to run out of time. I really need to keep us moving forward so that I can tell you what we can do to help you. What we can do to help you is, what I've recommended for you is 39 sessions, which is our most typical program. Or if it's 50 sessions, I say, yes, this is our biggest program of 50 sessions, but for you, it's necessary because your high beta is 3 levels too high and your theta is 3 levels too high. That's 6 levels off from what we are trying to accomplish in perfect brain processing speed, and that's going to take time and training. And then I tell them briefly how the programs work over time. When you commit to care with us, you first come in 2 times a week, and we do that for 8 weeks. Then it's 1 time a week for 9 weeks. And as long as everything looks great in your graphs and you're starting to feel and perform better, we decrease those sessions after the 25th session. At the 25th session, we have a progress evaluation where we sit down together and we review the trend graphs that my computer systems generate. We're always able to see how your brain is performing. We are able to see within the sessions if there is improvement and across sessions, and I share that with you in the 25th session, looking across the graphs over your program. But after your first session, my husband will sit down with you for 5 minutes on your second session and interpret your first graph for you. Then we will visit you every 7 sessions and briefly show you your graphs. You can see your graphs every session, but we will not go over them with you. It's just like weight loss. We don't want you weighing yourself every time you're in. We need time and training to be able to see progress. So we're going to do that every 7 sessions, and we're really going to do it 25 sessions into the program. As long as everything looks great, we're going to reduce frequency to every other week. And then when we see that progress happening over those 20 weeks, 10 more sessions, your brain will still be strengthening and hardwiring in the new pattern based upon the feedback loop, us establishing the positive feedback loop and breaking the negative feedback loop. And the last 4 sessions are 1 month apart. So if you come in June and your brain pattern's nice and low and organized and stable, you come back in July and it's even better. We know that we have neurologically regulated your brain and it's not going to regress. That's how we can make sure that we achieve the outcomes for you. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, so the 3 things a person wants to know is, I know what their issue is because I can see it on their brain map, which is like an X-ray of brain performance. Number 2, what I can do to fix that. So basically I tell them about the program and I tell them I need to reduce high beta and I need to reduce theta, and I'm going to bump up perfect processing speed in the middle, alpha, low beta. The third question is, how much is that going to cost me? Now in my office, I don't do that portion of the meeting. Sometimes I'll tee it up. My office manager comes in and she's responsible for the financial aspect and scheduling. So she'll come in and she'll tell people how much the 39 session program or the 50 session program costs. We have a sheet that we give them, which is below in this Xpress module. We give them the sheet that has the pricing and the way that the payments are to be done on it. And if a person commits within 2 business days, we take $100 off. And we tell them that's because we want to know who's joining us in our program so that we know what our availability is like. So 9 out of 10 times people commit within 2 days because they get that $100 off. And again, it's a trigger, but it's also a takeaway sale. We don't always expect people to sign up when they're in the office. They mostly do, but and Whitney, who does that portion of the meeting for me, brings in the iPad so she can process the payment, and on the computer she's able to process scheduling. We only schedule out their first 2 visits if they put down a $500 deposit, and that's because we will only schedule what is paid for. If they pay for the first half of the program, Whitney will schedule them out further, either at that meeting, but sometimes it can be overload because we've already talked about a lot. Usually she does that when they come back for their first session. So she'll get 1 or 2 sessions scheduled. When they're in for their first session, she schedules out the first half of the program, and it works out beautifully. She finds them a time in the schedule that works for them, and that is their time, and that's how they can stay committed. Then We always do payments in 2 payments. And if the person puts the $500 deposit down, the first payment, the rest of it, is due when they come in for their first session. Okay, so I think that basically lays out what we do in the report of findings and also tells you the next steps on the ultimate checklist. And I'm going to make quick videos. I have quick videos made for you on each one of those steps, but they'll be short. So stay tuned so we can just do each one of those steps so that you know how to move people through the process. Okay, stay tuned.